This has been one long, drawn-out season, and honestly, I'm a little bit relieved that it's over. The gameplay and hustle from some of these players just wasn't there this time around, I'm sorry to say. But I will give the show some of its flowers here because I'm not gonna lie, they did keep me guessing on who was going to win right up until the very end. Congratulations to Kyle, first and foremost, even though for a while I was definitely worried about the way he was playing his endgame. Not going to lie, I thought he was setting himself up for failure by keeping Joe and Eva around for so long, but I also did not expect Joe to bomb his final tribal the way he did. But we'll get to that later. Before we dive into this finale, please make sure you hit that subscribe button below if you have not already. Even though the season's over, I do still talk about other reality shows here on my channel from time to time too. Plus, we have season 50 and the cast reveal for that coming up soon, so make sure you're tuned in. Now, let's get started. So the first vote is so predictable, it's pretty much skippable. It was very clear that Mitch would be the next to go if he didn't win that immunity. He does try fighting for himself a little bit at least, but for whatever reason, in this game, Mitch is seen by the other players as too big of a threat. Now, obviously, I'm not out there playing with them, so I don't know what all's been said for real, but for the life of me, y'all, all season, I could not come up with a reason why Mitch was looked at this way. Like, they keep saying that Mitch is going to get all the jury votes because he has no blood on his hands, but he has no blood on his hands because he's done nothing but sit on them the entire game. I mean, I was really thinking that Mitch would be the easy one to beat in the finals, but maybe not. I feel like Mitch could have maybe done more to throw Joe under the bus and pitch him as the biggest threat instead. But I mean, this is also the same cast who is giving each other clues and hints and advice and idols. So honestly, I don't know why I was expecting competition from a competition show. Really, that's my bad, right? Anyway, now that Mitch is gone, only the duos remain, and for whatever reason, Kamilla decides that now is a great time to tell Kyle that she wants him cut at the Final Four. Now, I was with Kamilla's line of thinking here because obviously Kyle is a huge threat, so wanting him out now does make sense, but I don't know why she insists on telling Kyle all this before they even have the competition. Because all this is going to do is give Kyle an incentive to get you out too, and that's exactly what ends up happening. As we see, Kyle wins that final immunity and decides to send his bestie into the fire. And this moment really feels like Kamilla is just okay with sacrificing $1 million for a dude she just met last month. And who knows, right? Maybe Kyle would have been okay with doing the same thing, but it's just really disappointing to see people not really fighting for it out there, you know? To see someone just so willing to sacrifice themselves like that is noble, I guess, but it's just not my favorite way to see a good player go out, you know? I just wonder if Kamilla would have insisted that they stick together to the very end, right? If she was somehow able to convince Kyle that he actually could beat her in the end, how would that have ended up turning out? Because I think Kyle versus Kamilla in the final three would have been way more entertaining than what we ended up getting tonight. You know, Kyle and Kamilla kept on saying that their games would just be seen as too similar because they had been allies the whole time, but I don't know if that's true. Like, I think there would have been a way for them to speak to their individuality. So now Eva and Kamilla both have to practice fire making, and this is where we see Eva have another episode where she's getting really frustrated when she can't make the fire. Now, apparently this episode was way longer and way more intense than it was even shown to us on the show, but she's eventually able to soothe herself and figure it out with the help of Joe, of course. And for a split second during this scene, I was thinking that Joe may actually volunteer to do the fire making for Eva. We have heard Joe say so many times during the season that he would be willing to sacrifice his game for Eva. And they kept on repeating it over and over in the edit, so I was hoping that we'd see something come of it, but nah. Instead, we see Eva go on to win fire and Kamilla is sadly sent home here. Now, don't get me wrong, I do think it's sweet that Kamilla and Kyle bonded so much throughout the season for her to be willing to help him get the win like that. But again, I do still wish, and I get really frustrated when these players just don't fight for themselves more. Now let's move on to the final tribal, which was honestly very tame and a little bit lackluster. No one is coming for each other here. There's really no bickering or arguing. I mean, people are barely even disagreeing. I think Joe surprised me the most with how quiet he was here. I mean, throughout most of the season, he was my winner pick. So going into this thing, I was expecting him to speak to his dominant gameplay and his comp ability and the strong and faithful majority alliance that he was able to build for himself. But instead, we really didn't hear him mention any of that at all. I mean, he really flopped in the end. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think Joe was a super big fan of the show, so maybe he didn't know what to expect, or maybe he didn't know what to say or how to speak for himself. But again, just another disappointing performance here in the finale. Damn. Eva talked a lot about how her autism affected her game and how her friendship with Joe made everything better. Eva honestly just has not been my favorite player this season, but I do really want to commend her for her courage and bravery. It's probably so hard to come on a show like this where you know that you are going to expose yourself to millions of people who may or may not judge you because of your autism or because of the episodes that you have. But despite all that, she was still able to be herself and even provide a teaching moment to those who may not know a lot about autism. So I really do want to commend her for that. She also had a lot of quotables and spoke with a lot of confidence in this final tribal, which I really loved. But probably my favorite part of her performance was the reveal of that secret advantage that she won but never used. There's also the other reveal of her being a super smart PhD Navy research girly or whatever she said she was, but I think it was just her charisma overall that was able to win her second place. And finally, we have Kyle, who was honestly a little disappointing to me here too. He also just seemed kind of quiet, and I thought that he could have spoken to his sly, sneaky rat style game a little bit more than he did. Now, he did eat with the big reveal about how he set up the Shauhin blindside and all that, but Kamilla pretty much had to set him up in order for him to be able to say that. So I'm going to give her some points for that too. In addition to Kamilla, he also had a lot of his former Siva tribe mates in that jury too. So that also could have helped him win the votes. So when it's all said and done, Kyle is crowned our winner, with Eva getting second place and Daddy Joe, for whatever reason, getting third. Joe being a third place finalist just really threw me for a loop just because of how he had been portrayed the entire season. During those few scenes where it was only Joe and Kyle together talking about those personal lives, even though they were both talking, those scenes really felt like they were more about Joe. I mean, we were always hearing Joe's opinion on what somebody else was doing out there. But you know what? When I think about it, Kyle's point of view has also been there since the very beginning too. The thing that's always stood out to me was in the premiere episode. Kyle and Kevin were competing against each other to win Flint, I believe, and Kyle had accidentally disqualified himself from that game because he had broken the vase. Afterwards, Kyle decides to help Kevin complete the challenge even though he didn't have to at all, and the edit really made sure they highlighted this. They made sure to highlight Kyle as being a good, helpful, friendly, caring person. And even though his performance was lackluster in that competition, he was still the star of the show. So while it is always fun being surprised by a winner, I would still rank this season pretty low, unfortunately. I think things started off really strong in the first half, but as things progressed, the gameplay just kind of got weaker and weaker. I do want to give one last final shout out to Kyle though, because I did appreciate his sneaky gameplay, and of course, I did think that it was a very deserving win. Of course, I'll probably be back here next season to recap 49 with you all. Plus, the all-star cast of season 50 is going to be revealed very soon, so that's exciting too. Thank you all so much for tuning in and recapping with me. Even through all the ups and downs of the season, I always appreciate reading the comments, and I love that y'all are here. I will talk to y'all later, but until next time, bye.